It's Wednesday, March 25th, 2009. I'm Will, Rob's on assignment, and you're watching Political Lunch. Welcome back to The Lunch. Don't worry, Rob will be back here with me on Friday. But today, we start with a look at President Obama's primetime press conference last night. It was the second of his presidency, and while much of the focus was on the economy and the federal budget, the president also answered a broad range of questions on topics ranging from race relations in the White House to U.S. relations with Mexico. By all accounts, it was a masterful, if somewhat pedantic, performance. President Obama seemed confident and unshakable, even in the face of some direct challenges from the White House press corps. Take, for example, CNN's Ed Henry.
You spoke again at the top about your anger about AIG. You've been saying that for days now. But why is it that it seems Andrew Cuomo seems to be in New York getting more actual action on it?
Or MSNBC's Chuck Todd.
Some of your programs, whether from Main Street or Wall Street, have actually cushioned the blow for those that were irresponsible.
And, of course, this from Major Garrett of Fox News.
How comfortable you are with Chinese government run by communists, less confident than they used to be in the U.S. dollar, and European governments, some of them center-left, some of them socialist, who say you're asking them to spend too much.
And finally, we have the Stars and Stripes reporter who gets extra points off for mumbling.
Mr. President, where do you plan to find savings in the Defense and Veterans Administration's budgets when so many items that seem destined for the chopping block are politically untenable, perhaps?
I'm sorry, so many.
Now, interestingly enough, the president last night did not call on many representatives of the so-called mainstream media. There were no questions from the New York Times. He did not call on the Wall Street Journal, nor did he call on the Washington Post. Now, you can find the full transcript of the hour-long press conference online today at the New York Times website and see who did actually get to ask questions. But in brief, the pundits today are saying that the president last night did a good job of seeming like he's in charge and that there's a steady hand on the tiller. Quote, "This was a president who's looking to bring some chill to the American people," says ABC's Rick Klein. Quote, "Pitchforks can't make it past White House security, and the fervor that's marked the past 10 days, that's not allowed in this president's Oval Office." Now, Peter Baker and Adam Nagorny of the New York Times echoed that sentiment, writing today that the president was, quote, "speaking past the reporters in the room to the tens of millions of viewers tuning in at home. He tried to reassure the nation that he could solve the crisis that has gripped the economy for more than a year." Also today, Time Magazine's Michael Scherer notes that last night's press conference is part of a broader communication strategy, writing, quote, "Even those who eschew politics have most likely seen a clip or two of their president in charge, projecting confidence and explaining that things will get better. And for this White House, that's the message that matters." Now, the message and the messenger so far may be strong, but of course, whether or not you agree or disagree with his particular approach to the problems we face, well, that's another matter entirely. Another pundit today described the press conference last night in current sports terms, that President Obama has spent so much time defending his budget last night is sort of a little like defending your Sweet 16 picks the day after your bracket got busted. Now, if you don't understand that one, ask someone who's been following March Madness. But the bottom line, the president now does face significant challenges when it comes to his plan for the budget and the economy, even from within his own party. Today, the Washington Post reports that House and Senate Democrats plan to cut hundreds of billions of dollars in spending requests from the president's budget. Today, the president is scheduled to have lunch with the Senate Democratic caucus, and you can bet he'll spend at least the salad course trying to convince them to do otherwise. Already, though, the president is offering some significant concessions to those who say he's trying to do too much all at once. Yesterday, Obama backed off from his call to deal with climate change as part of the budget process, saying, well, he never thought he'd get everything he asked for anyways. Now, one final note today. Last night, President Obama answered a question about the escalating drug-related violence on the U.S.-Mexico border, saying that he's already directed more federal resources to the region, and he'll double those efforts if needed. Now, it is a perilous situation, violence between rival drug cartels claiming hundreds of lives on both sides of the border. Now, tomorrow, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will travel to Mexico to meet with that nation's president, Felipe Calderón, to hopefully secure his cooperation on an issue that is actually not as clear-cut as it might seem. Now, while the violence is mostly rooted in the Mexican drug trade, many people rightly point to the fact that most of those drugs are being sold on the American market, and most of the guns involved in the violence are being brought into Mexico from the United States. Combine those issues with the long-standing disagreements over the implementation of NAFTA, and you have an increasingly tenuous relationship between Mexico and the United States. Secretary of State Clinton's visit tomorrow is the first in a string of high-level diplomatic meetings between the two nations. President Obama himself will take a trip south of the border next month. In the meantime, we'll continue to watch this story. That's all for us today. Thanks for watching Political Lunch. Rob's back here at the desk with me on Friday.